June 1953. Bunkers are built to ensure operational readiness in an emergency.
Der Bunker selbst ist gebaut worden 1968 bis 72.
The bunker itself was built between 1968 and 72. The mandate for its construction was the State Security Minister's Directive 167, which ordered that bomb-proof shelters were to be built for every district administration and for the central divisions in Berlin. From these, the various administrative units could conduct their Stasi operations even during war.
Over 20 bunkers are built for the district administrations and important central divisions of the ministry.
The bunker was on standby 24/7. Every morning, the bunker commander had to report its readiness by phone to the director of the district administration in Leipzig.
In Leipzig, the bunker compound is disguised as a vacation colony. Behind the door of what appears to be a warehouse lies the secret bunker entrance. Completely isolated, the bunker offers protection for a few days only.
Es gibt ein Dokument der Juristischen Hochschule in Potsdam.
There's a document from the School of Law in Potsdam about the aftermath of a nuclear attack and how the Stasi was to deal with it. This scenario ends with the reconstruction of East Germany, and to paraphrase the final sentence, yet the question remains, for and by whom?
Für wen und durch wen?
But war is not the main reason for planning the bunkers.
Die ersten Überlegungen für diese Strukturen, die bis zum Ende
The first considerations, which remained in effect till the end, were made after the popular uprising of June 17, 1953. They show clearly that the purpose of the bunkers was not the possibility of military conflict with an outside force, but that the entire planning for the mobilization was focused on internal political crisis situations.
Innenpolitische Spannungssituationen bezog.
In August of 1989, Stasi head Erich Mielke asks the district directors, will another June 17th break out tomorrow? The Stasi has been long in preparing for this dreaded day. When it comes, dissidents are to be interred in isolation camps.
Die Planungen für diese Lager waren so konkret, dass also für jeden Bezirk die entsprechenden Lager mit Örtlichkeiten festgelegt waren.
The plans for these camps were very precise. They specified the camp locations in every district. Materials had to be stored for fencing it in on short notice. And the people who were to be brought to the compound had to be listed by name. On Sunday, October 8, one day before the decisive Monday demonstration here in Leipzig, Erich Mielke directed all district administrations to update their lists to determine who actually was to be isolated.
There are plans for central isolation camps in each of East Germany's 15 districts. Following detailed instructions, historical fortresses and fortifications are to be converted to camps within one day.
Wenn am 9. Oktober es hier in Leipzig zu einer gewaltsamen Auseinandersetzung gekommen wäre.
Had it come to violent clashes here in Leipzig on October 9th, I'm quite certain that these measures would have been used to beat down the demonstrations. There had been no other way to restore order.
Anders hätte man in der DDR keine Ruhe bekommen können.
In spite of total surveillance, that the East German majority desires a reality far from the socialist ideals of the party is unthinkable for the Stasi.
Dass viele Leute als Feinde bearbeitet werden, die auch in ihrem Bewusstsein ja überhaupt kein Feind.
Many who were treated as enemies of the state did not consider themselves as such, while others who request to view their Stasi file today say, "I was always against the system, and I engaged in small-scale acts of opposition." Yet some of them will find that they hadn't been watched at all. The apparatus never registered them. For early 1989, the Stasi put the total number of political enemies at 2,000 persons.
In October 1989, after East Germany's 40th anniversary, 10,000 citizens take to the streets and demand democratic reforms. At the end of the month, over 300,000 gather in Leipzig alone. Erich Honecker steps down. In November, some 1 million people demonstrate in East Berlin. The party opens the borders.
In der Nacht vom 4. zum 5. Dezember ist die Bezirksverwaltung der Staatssicherheit in Rostock besetzt worden.
On the night of December 4th, citizens occupied the Stasi's district office in Rostock. Why it was this day was clear. Word had gotten out that files were being destroyed in great quantities everywhere. Mielke had given a special order to do so, which was backed up by Prime Minister Hans Modrow. For once, East German technological backwardness worked to our advantage, because the ministry didn't have enough shredders. So they'd started burning files in remote Stasi offices, and people took notice.
Internal status reports show how Stasi employees feel abandoned by their superiors and the government. While the party renames itself and continues to exist as such, the Stasi sees itself made into the scapegoat of the socialist dictatorship.
Initially, the plan was to convert the Ministry for State Security into a national security agency. The Stasi planned its own future, but the citizens' committees strove with all their might to prevent this.
Everywhere, citizens are occupying Stasi buildings.
Und die haben dann mit dem Chef der Stasi verhandelt.
These citizens negotiated with the Stasi chief. They insisted that a state prosecutor should come and take Stasi Lieutenant General Mittag into custody. The two knew each other well, and he did come and take him away in his car. But that's a different story. More importantly, that same night the rebellious citizens of Rostock demanded that the police take custody of this building and secure all the files. A group of citizens with police accompaniment combed it, sealed the rooms, and disarmed and discharged the Stasi personnel. The weapons were handed over to the army, and the employees sent home. That was the end of Stasi work. This citizens group, which later formed itself into Rostock's Independent Investigative Committee, then tackled the enormous task of viewing the entire body of documents left behind by the Stasi. This, if you will, was the genesis of the Federal Commission for the Stasi records.
Fortunately, and almost mysteriously, the revolution proceeds without violence. Destruction of its own archives remains the only major resistance of the heavily armed Stasi. Maybe the explanation is a trivial one. The party issued no orders to do otherwise.
It's estimated that roughly 1/3 of the entire Stasi material was destroyed. Most of it dealt with the so-called Western activities that the Central Divisions for Intelligence conducted in the former Federal Republic. These files suffered most of the destruction.
After Germany's reunification, what the Stasi has torn up by hand is reassembled by hand by the Federal Commission for Stasi Records.
Also es ist so, dass ein Mitarbeiter pro Tag ungefähr 10 Seiten rekonstruiert.
An employee here reconstructs about 10 pages a day. If the puzzle pieces are fairly large, a bag like this takes around 9 months. If they aren't, it takes longer. We've had bags with many small pieces that a worker sat over for nearly 2 years.
Computers will do the painstaking task, but the manually reconstructed originals are still needed as evidence in court.
Brisantes Material, das ist einmal, dass ein thüringischer Landesbischof.
Significant material here. There's the case of I.M. Ingo, a bishop of Thuringia who had been working as an informal collaborator for years. Then we have a university lecturer from Kassel who worked with the ministry. And we discovered that Silke Meyer-Witt, one of the terrorists of the Red Army faction in the 1970s, was given a new identity by the Stasi and was living in East Germany. And we're still finding many more IMs from East and West in here.
A single bag holds several tens of thousands of paper scraps. Some 15,000 bags are still in storage in Magdeburg's Central Archive.
In the 11 years of our existence, we've reconstructed 320 or 321 bags.
Even East German law didn't allow, for instance, wiretapping by the Stasi. Were any Stasi personnel prosecuted after 1989?
Criminal prosecution is irrelevant. It's not worth mentioning.
Das ist das Problem, wenn ich am Ende einer Diktatur nicht eine neue Diktatur errichte, so wie
That's the problem. If you don't establish a dictatorship to replace the one that ended, like East Germany did after the Nazis, but if you decide to close this chapter and start as a democracy, sometimes it stung seeing how the perpetrators got away without the consequences that we'd hoped for. But in reverse, it's all the more important to talk openly about what was done. If those responsible for the wiretapping weren't punished, one must at least be allowed to talk about it as long as they live and beyond. Who was responsible and how did they do it?
Wer dafür zuständig war und wie sie es gemacht haben.
Would it be easier to just lay the past to rest?
Etwas abzuschneiden, wegzudrängen und zu tun, als könnte man nur noch
To cut it off, push it away and go blindly forward. I don't think that's ever been done in human history. Every society builds on its history and just has to face up to it. You can't run away from it, even if it's unpleasant. Nobody, I think, has managed that yet.
After the demise of East Germany, no one wants to take the blame. Party leader Erich Honecker declares in 1990 that the Stasi's countrywide expansion went against all party resolutions. The Stasi was a state within a state. Minister Erich Mielke counters, the Stasi was never autonomous. The party alone gave the Stasi its orders and was informed of all activities. The reality lies somewhere in between. It's on record. The Stasi files still hold much that waits to be discovered. More than 200,000 people were incarcerated in East Germany for political reasons. The most common offense was the attempt or the will to leave the country.